Welcome, Mr. Duffy, and welcome
you.
to your family. We're very excited you're here, and congratulations on your nomination. Regardless of anybody's opinions that we may have on EVs, the fact remains that we now have more electric vehicles on the roads of this country. They are 30% heavier on average than gas-powered cars, and because of that, they crash with up to 50% more impact on the vehicle and the roadway infrastructure. Despite this wear and tear that we're seeing on our infrastructure, EVs do not pay into the Highway Trust Fund. A trust fund, as you know, is already woefully inadequate. It's facing a shortfall. And last Congress, I introduced a bill to remedy this by requiring EVs to pay a fair share. Do you think that, and would you be, if so, do you think that EVs should be paying into the Highway Trust Fund? And would you work to figure out a way to make this feasible?
Absolutely, Senator. I think you brought that up in the office in our conversation. They should pay for use of our roads. How to do that, I think, is a little more challenging, but I'd love to work with you and the committee to make that happen.
As you look long-term, how would you, as the Secretary of Transportation, be able to ensure that the revenues are going to be there so that we can continue to manage a highway trust fund that has been so vital in the growth of commerce across this country, so that we can continue to have a road system that works?
You know, I think there's been three scenarios talked about. You can increase the gas tax, which I'm not going to join you in that effort, but there's the gas tax. We could increase tolling, or there's a mile-driven formula that could be used as well. My concern with that, though, is the privacy around the American citizens. So I think that's a conversation that'll fall within the purview of this committee, but I'd be happy to work with you. I do think, and I think Senator Cantwell brought this up, we could be far more efficient with our dollars. If we could streamline the approach and get dollars into projects quicker, I think we would go a long way to shoring up the trust fund. Not all the way, but a long way to making sure there's more available dollars, not for studies and consultants, but more for turning dirt.
I would agree with you on that. When we look at the length of projects, what it takes from planning to be able to be shovel-ready takes years in some cases. And every single year, the cost increases for those projects. So if we can shorten that time period, I'd be thrilled to work with you on that. As we look at the FHWA, they have struggled to provide, I think, clear, consistent guidance across their division offices. For example, I've heard from State Department of Transportation that there's a lack of consistent guidance from the US DOT regarding the requirements needed for states to justify building back better after a disaster. If confirmed, how do you think you would be able to work across the Federal Highway Administration to ensure that division offices in regions all across this country, that they're consistent, that they are clear in their guidance to our state departments?
I think that's a great question. So I would work with the divisional heads in each state, get their feedback, hear their complaints, and take the best advice about how we can actually be clear and streamline the process. I think one of the many complaints is, often the rules and regulations that come from the department, and if we can not diminish safety, but also improve efficiency, I'd like to work with you and the committee on that.
Okay. I recently introduced the She Drives Act, which is bipartisan legislation that would require NHTSA to update its testing devices for female and male crash test dummies. And this legislation was necessary because the agency has taken over 10 years to move the rulemaking forward. If confirmed, how will you ensure that NHTSA is going to see some progress on rulemaking and safety priorities that we as a Congress have directed them to implement in a timely manner?
Senator, I didn't know this was an issue until you brought it up in your office. I think there's only male crash test dummies. There's obviously men and women are different, and there's not crash test dummies for females. So I would like to work with you. I will have conversation with NHTSA and loop you into that conversation and see what we can do to move that forward.
And move just the rulemaking forward.
Right.
Yes, thank you.